Wow, it's an honor and a pleasure to introduce this next congressman. I met him a couple years ago, and I think you all agree with me that when Cruz talks about leadership, we need a leader like this person that I'm going to bring up right now, in office, in Congress. When I hear him speak, I hear him wanting to give Congress back to you and me, the people. With no further ado, I want to introduce our Congressman, Louis Vandenberg, our candidate for the 41st Congressional District.
I'm a media professional. You can't see. There it is. Okay. Yeah, that's a new job. I want to apologize for my hoarseness. It's punishment for talking too much. Hopefully I'll get through this. I'm inspired to see Eddie D. Smith here. Eddie. When I first ran, and sometimes I'm amazed, I've done this 3 times now. I went to see Eddie D. Smith, and you were so positive and gave me so much energy and so much inspiration. She compared me to George Brown, she compared me to John Tunney, and I was very flattered. But I compare you to Rosa Parks. You're a legend, and deservedly so. And you also said, when Bob asked you what was your first president, you said Harry Truman. And Harry Truman was, I believe that he was famously quoted as saying, if you want to live like a Republican, you should vote for a Democrat. And actually, I don't know, here in the 21st century, I don't know if I want to live like a Republican. I am not really happy with the Republican Party. I made my choice between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. And I know what that phrase means, prosperity and security. We all want that, and we know how to attain that through the Democratic Party. And I made my choice to run as a Democrat, to become a Democrat, because I believe that people need representation. That's what the system is based on. I believe the poor of this country need representation. I believe that the working people of this country need representation. I believe that the middle class of this country needs representation. The middle class is under assault. You know, the middle class in the 20th century really represented something remarkable in human history. It represented the highest standard of living for the greatest number of people that the world has ever achieved. And that didn't happen through Republican policies. It happened through Democratic Party policies, the kind of policies that sustain us and inspire us as Democrats, and that need to be renewed now in the 21st century. The rich have had their representatives, the Republicans and George Bush. And I'm not about being critical necessarily, saying all Republicans are bad. My family is a Republican family. I was actually raised in the traditions of Republican Party politics. I know it may seem strange, but my parents and my grandparents were Eisenhower and Goldwater Republicans, and I knew all about them. And sometimes when I meet Republicans, I know what it's about. I understand who you are. I speak Republican. I get it. But those old school Republicans, Goldwater and Eisenhower, look like liberals compared to the Republicans of today. The problem with Republicans of today is that there's nothing conservative about them at all. They are reckless. They are extreme. They are wasteful and corrupt. corrupt and incompetent. They find any excuse, it seems, to plunder the treasury, to give it to their cronies like Halliburton and Exxon. And when they're not corrupt, they're incompetent. Like putting a man who judges horse shows in charge of handling emergencies. And you saw what happened at Katrina. And you're seeing what happens in Iraq today. Lobbyists in charge of stem cell research and global warming research. Ideologues in charge of a war which is expending the sacred blood of our soldiers and the commonwealth of our treasury. This is the only president in American history to lose 2 wars simultaneously. And this is, by every measure, and by an increasing consensus, a bipartisan consensus, the worst president in American history. I stand as a candidate, quite simply stated, to repeal the Bush presidency. I stand as a candidate to restore fiscal sanity to our nation. I stand to restore our dignity and honor and to end torture as policy and deceit as method. I stand to assert reason over ignorance, bigotry, and lunacy, which have become the watchwords of today's Republican Party. I stand with the old school, the real Republicans and conservatives, what used to be called the loyal opposition. I stand with Eisenhower, who said in his farewell address, and this is really important, I'm going to read something here from a Republican president that we need to think about today. A real conservative. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never, this is core, we must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together. What is clear over the passage of time is that one Republican president was warning us about this Republican president, about George W. Bush, the worst president in the history of the United States. And it's not about religion. I stand with those who are the truly part of the religious community, who know that Jesus cared about the poor and was not about promoting war, who knew that quote in the Bible, by their fruit ye shall know them. That's in the Bible. It's another way of saying, it's a poetic way of saying, don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. And what they do is lie. What they do is plunder from the public treasury. What they do is engage in the disgrace of torture. What they do is make war. That has nothing to do with the religious traditions that I was raised in. I stand with the people of the world who are decent and kind and thoughtful. Most of all, and most critically and importantly, I stand with the Democratic Party. We're the ones with the ideas, the vision, and the spine to turn this around, to take the keys away from the drunk that is driving this great nation off a cliff. We're at a fork in the road. And historians in the future will ask, was this the beginning, the Bush administration, of America's decline? Or was it, by the actions that we take, a renewal of the greatness and the promise of the United States of America? When the journalist Hunter S. Thompson was asked about the Bush administration shortly before he died a couple of years ago, he said just 4 words: big darkness soon come. That darkness is here, becoming more obvious every day by day by day. On November 7th, let's turn on the light, because that's ours to do. It's given to us to do. The Democratic Party, there's no one other that will do it but us. If not us, who? If not now, when? On November 7th, it's time to make the difference we know must be made. Vote Democratic. Let's take this nation back to its greatness. Let's let it be something that we can recognize again as America. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.